governs our lives.
Hmm.
The rules that ensure the food you eat is safe, that public spaces are orderly, and, that our diverse beliefs are respected.
Yeah, it's this vast, intricate web, isn't it?
It really is. And today, we're embarking on a fascinating deep dive into some truly foundational legal territory that underpins it all.
Sounds good.
We're cracking open the Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023, the BNS, as we'll probably call it, specifically Chapter 50 and Chapter 66.
Right.
These chapters are titled Of Offenses Relating to Public Health, Safety, Convenience, Decency and Morals, and Offenses Relating to Religion.
Quite a mouthful.
Yeah. Think of it as the legal blueprint for how we as a collective can live together harmoniously, safely, and well with mutual respect.
Indeed. And this deep dive, it isn't just about understanding legal jargon, is it? It's about appreciating the state's responsibility in creating a framework for societal well-being. And crucially, the individual's role within that framework. We're looking at how these new provisions codify protections for our shared spaces and our deeply held values.
And building on what came before.
Exactly, building upon a rich and evolving history of Indian criminal jurisprudence.
Right. So our mission today, for you, our curious listener, is to unpack what these sections mean for the everyday person.
Yeah, make it real.
We'll explore everything from what constitutes a public nuisance, we've all experienced that, to the protections around religious freedom and public decency.
It's a wide spectrum.
You'll gain a shortcut to being well-informed about the laws that govern our collective good, hopefully with some surprising facts and, just enough humor to keep you hooked.
Let's hope so.
Okay, let's unpack this and explore the critical role these laws play in shaping a healthy, safe, and respectful community. Right, first up, we're kicking things off in the concept many of us have heard, but maybe haven't fully grasped legally: public nuisance. We all know what annoys us personally, right? But what does the BNS 2023 tell us about a public nuisance? How does it truly differ from, say, just a personal annoyance?
Well, what's fascinating here is how broadly the BNS in Section 270 defines this. It's not just about what you deliberately do,
Okay.
but also what you fail to do if there's a legal expectation, what the law calls an illegal omission.
Ah, omission, right.
Yeah. This section targets acts or omissions that cause common injury, danger, or annoyance to the public or to the people in general who dwell or occupy property in the vicinity, or that obstruct any public right.
So the key word there is common.
Exactly. The real aha moment here is understanding its reach. It forces us to consider the ripple effects of our everyday actions, holding us accountable even for subtle neglects that impact shared spaces.
So it's about an impact that goes beyond just one person. It affects a community or a significant chunk of it. Can you break down what really makes an act or omission a public nuisance under this section?
Absolutely. Think of it as having a few key ingredients, sort of like a recipe.
Hmm.
First, there's the accused, which can be any person, an individual, or even a group, like a company.
Right.
Then the actus reus, that's the actual wrongdoing. It involves either doing something specific or being guilty of an illegal omission.
And that omission part again?
Yeah, an illegal omission is simply failing to do something you are legally obligated to do. For instance, if you're legally responsible for maintaining a safe pathway and you just neglect it, let it fall apart, that's an illegal omission.
Okay, got it. So the action or inaction, what else?
The consequence is crucial. It must cause common injury, danger, or annoyance to the public or to people nearby, or it must obstruct a public right, like blocking a public road or pathway that everyone has a right to use.
That common effect again.
It's vital. It's what distinguishes it from a private nuisance, which would just affect, say, your neighbor, and that would typically be a civil matter, not criminal.
I see. So if a factory owner is constantly pumping out noxious fumes that cause widespread respiratory issues in a whole neighborhood,
That's a classic example. Public nuisance.
or someone dumping loads of construction debris in a public soot path, blocking it for everyone.
Exactly. Or even something maybe seemingly less severe, like loudspeakers blaring music at extreme volumes late at night in a residential area. If it causes common annoyance to the whole neighborhood.
Right, that counts too.
It can. And one of the really salient features here is that there's no defensive convenience. You
No.
can't argue, oh, but my noisy factory provides jobs if it's causing widespread harm or annoyance. The law basically embodies the spirit of that old legal maxim.
Uh-oh, Latin incoming.
Just the spirit. Sic tutere tuo ut alienum non laedas, basically. Use your own property in such a manner as not to injure that of another.
Okay, makes sense. Don't mess things up for everyone else.
Pretty much. It's about ensuring that your actions don't infringe on the collective well-being.
So this Section 270 is a really powerful tool for community protection. It makes it clear that widespread impact and even failing to act when you should have can be criminal. But what if the public nuisance is, relatively minor, like someone consistently leaving their bins out, blocking the pavement a bit? Is there a general penalty?
That leads us directly to Section 271. This serves as a general punishment for public nuisances that aren't specifically covered elsewhere with higher penalties.
Like a catch-all.
Exactly. It's essentially a residual provision, ensuring that even minor nuisances don't just slide. The law states quite simply, whoever commits a public nuisance in any case not otherwise punishable by this Sanhita shall be punished with a fine, which may extend to 1,000 rupees.
Ah, okay, so a fine up to 1,000 rupees. It's for those relatively minor annoyances, like your example, regularly leaving garbage on a public street, causing general unpleasantness but maybe not grave harm.
Precisely. It keeps the peace for the relatively small infringements. It's a fine-only penalty, designed for those less serious instances, but it still reinforces the principle that public convenience and safety are paramount.
Right. It sends a message. Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me, thinking about how these general principles of public nuisances also apply to very specific situations, especially around public access and safety on, roads and paths we all use.
Indeed. If we connect this to the bigger picture, the idea of collective consequences definitely stretches to how we manage our public spaces. While Sections 270 and 271 cover general nuisances, the BNS gets very specific about keeping our shared routes clear and safe.
Like roads and waterways.
Exactly. For instance, Section 289 directly addresses danger or obstruction on public ways or lines of navigation. Its object is simple: ensure safety and free passage for everyone.
And what does it say?
The section penalizes whoever, by doing any act or by omitting to take order with any property in his possession or under his charge, causes danger, obstruction, or injury to any person in any public way or public line of navigation, shall be punished with fine, which may extend to 1,000 rupees.
Okay, so another fine, up to 1,000 rupees. And it covers roads, footpaths, rivers, canals. If you cause a hazard there, you're liable.
Pretty much. Like if you dig a trench across a footpath and don't barricade it properly.
Or leave an old boat sinking in a navigable channel.
Exactly. Or even a shopkeeper who maybe extends their goods display way out onto the public pavement, causing an obstruction to pedestrians.
That happens all the time.
It does. And the key here is that it covers both actively doing something to cause the danger or obstruction, or failing to act to prevent it when you're responsible for the property, like the boat owner.
Right, action or inaction again.
It's another example of the law's broad recognition that your actions or inactions have collective consequences.
So whether it's the general nuisance of Section 270 or the specific obstruction of Section 289, the BNS 2023 is really saying, hey, think about others. Your actions, or lack thereof, affect the community.
That's a good way to put it.
This raises a really important question, though. How does this broad principle translate into safeguarding perhaps our most vital collective asset, our health? Okay, let's pivot then. Public health. Obviously a massive topic, especially the last few years. It's been front and center globally.
Absolutely.
And the BNS 2023 have a whole suite of sections dedicated to this, right? From preventing disease spread to ensuring the purity of our food and medicine.
Indeed. This group of sections truly highlights the proactive and protective nature of the law. It reflects society's, growing awareness of how easily public health can be jeopardized. And the BNS lays out a very clear distinction between different levels of culpability when it comes to, say, disease transmission.
So it's not all treated the same. It seems like there's a spectrum of blameworthiness when it comes to spreading disease. Can you walk us through that, especially the difference between just being careless and actual malice?
Absolutely. The law differentiates significantly based on intent or the state of mind. Section 272 deals with negligent acts where there's a lack of reasonable care.
Just carelessness.
Right. Whereas Section 273 addresses malignant acts, which involve deliberate malice or ill will. And this reflects a significant difference in moral culpability and, as you'll hear, in the severity of punishment.
Okay, let's start with negligence, Section 272.
Right. Section 272 criminalizes careless conduct that risks spreading a life-threatening infectious disease. The law states, whoever unlawfully or negligently does any act which is, and which he knows or has reason to believe to be, likely to spread the infection of any disease dangerous to life, shall be punished with imprisonment, up to 6 months, or with fine, or with both.
Okay, so the keys there are unlawfully or negligently, and knows or has reason to believe. It's about a lack of reasonable care with a dangerous disease where you should have known better, essentially.
Precisely. Imagine someone with active, highly contagious tuberculosis. They know the risk, or they really should know it, but they still choose to attend crowded public gatherings without taking any precaution.
Okay, that's negligent.
Or a laboratory worker who carelessly handles deadly virus samples, maybe ignoring established safety protocols. In both cases, there's likely no specific intent to harm anyone, but there's a clear negligence with potentially devastating public health consequences.
Right. Now compare that to Section 273, the malignant one.
Yes, Section 273, malignant act likely to spread infection of disease dangerous to life. This section targets acts done with malice or ill will, or malignantly, specifically intending to spread a dangerous disease, or acting with such extreme recklessness it amounts to the same thing.
And punishment reflects that.
Definitely. The law views this with far greater severity. It states, whoever malignantly does any act which is, and which he knows or has reason to believe to be, likely to spread the infection of any disease dangerous to life, shall be punished with imprisonment. Up to 2 years, or with fine, or with both.
Wow, that distinction is critical. 2 years imprisonment versus 6 months for negligent acts. That's a huge difference in legal consequence, highlighting how much intent matters.
It is a crucial distinction. The element of malignantly signifies a wicked disposition, spite, or extreme recklessness. Think of someone, maybe out of spite, deliberately coughing on others to infect them with something serious.
Horrible thought.
Or contaminating a community water source with the malicious intent of spreading disease. The law steps in with a much harsher penalty because the intent to cause harm or the extreme disregard for life is so much greater.
And then there's the big one we've all become, unfortunately, familiar with, quarantine. Recent events certainly put a spotlight on that aspect of public health law.
Yes, absolutely. Section 274 specifically targets disobedience to quarantine rules. This section criminalizes the deliberate violation of lawfully established quarantine regulations for infectious diseases.
So things like mandatory isolation periods or travel restrictions during an outbreak.
Exactly. It's particularly relevant for controlling outbreaks, whether it's for vessels entering port or for regulating movement between places where an infectious disease prevails. The narration states, whoever knowingly disobeys any rule made and promulgated by the central government or any state government for putting any vessel into a state of quarantine, or for regulating the intercourse between places where an infectious disease prevails and other places, shall be punished with imprisonment up to 6 months, or with fine, or with both.
So it's about knowing the rule exists.
Right.
It has to be properly announced, promulgated, and then deliberately breaking it. Vital for containment. No excuses like, oh, I didn't hear about that rule if it was properly announced.
Exactly. The key ingredients are the existence of a duly promulgated government rule and the act of knowingly disobeying that rule.
Like a ship captain ignoring a quarantine order.
That's a perfect example. Or an individual who knowingly violates travel restrictions put in place between an infected zone and other areas during an epidemic. These provisions are a direct exercise of what's called the police power of the state.
Meaning the state's power to protect us.
Essentially, yes. It's the inherent authority of the government to make laws and regulations to protect the public's health, safety, and general welfare.
Okay. So these sections clearly draw the lines, especially vital during something like a pandemic. But public health isn't just about viruses, right? It's also about what we ingest every day. Let's talk about food, drink, and medicine. That feels like a fundamental level of trust we place in society.
It really is. And this raises the important question. How does the law protect us from, well, tainted products? The BNS has a multi-pronged approach here, covering the purity of consumables, ensuring everything from our morning tea to life-saving medicines is safe.
Multi-pronged. Okay, how does that work?
Well, this multi-layered approach to food and drug safety really tells us that the state takes a trust but verify approach. It's not enough to just punish bad actors after the fact. The law tries to create redundant safeguards.
From farm to pharmacy sort of thing.
Exactly, ensuring that our fundamental trust in product safety is legally protected. Let's start with food and drink, with Section 275. Adulteration of food or drink intended for sale.
Okay, adulteration, making it impure.
Right. This section targets anyone who messes with our food or drink, making it harmful or unwholesome. The law uses the term noxious, especially if they intend to sell it or know it's likely going to be sold.
What does the law actually say?
It says, Whoever adulterates any article of food or drink so as to make such article noxious, intending to sell such article, or knowing it to be likely that it will be sold, shall be punished with imprisonment, up to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or with both.
So the act of making it bad, if you intend to sell it, is the crime here. It's about deliberate contamination with intent to profit, essentially.
Correct. The core ingredients are the act of adulterating food or drink, making it noxious, meaning harmful or unwholesome, and having the intent to sell or the knowledge it's likely to be sold.
Like a vendor mixing something nasty into milk to increase the volume?
Exactly. Or a food manufacturer using prohibited, unsafe additives to cut costs. The focus is on the act of contamination with the specific purpose of getting it into public consumption.
Okay, that's making it bad. What about selling it if it's already bad?
Good question. That leads us to Section 276, sale of noxious food or drink. This takes it a step further. It penalizes knowingly selling or even just offering or exposing for sale any food or drink that has already become harmful or unfit, and crucially, the seller knows this.
So the seller has knowledge.
Yes, the law states, whoever sells or offers or exposes for sale any article which has been rendered or has become noxious or is in a state unfit for food or drink, knowing or having reason to believe that the same is noxious, shall be punished with imprisonment up to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or with both.
So you can be penalized for making the food noxious under 275, and then separately penalized under 276 for selling it if you know it's bad. That's a double layer of protection for consumers.
It is. It means both the producer and the vendor have a legal duty to ensure safety, accountability at different stages.
That makes sense. Now, what about our medicines? Because that feels even more critical given what's potentially at stake with health.
Absolutely. The same meticulous protection extends to pharmaceuticals, and it's layered similarly, arguably because the consequences of compromised drugs can be even more severe.
So similar sections for drugs.
Yes. Let's look at Section 277, adulteration of drugs. This mirrors the food adulteration law pretty closely. It penalizes anyone who adulterates a drug or medical preparation in a way that lessens its efficacy, changes how it works, or makes it harmful again, that word noxious.
And again, with intent to sell it deceptively.
Exactly. The intent is key. This applies where they intend for it to be sold or used as if it were pure, or know it's likely to be sold or used that way. The law reads, whoever adulterates any drug or medical preparation in such a manner as to lessen the efficacy or change the operation, or to make it noxious, intending that it shall be sold or used for medicinal purpose, as if it had not undergone such adulteration, or knowing it to be likely that it will be so sold or used, shall be punished with imprisonment up to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or with both.
So tampering with the drug itself, with deceptive intent, like a pharmaceutical company cutting corners and using substandard active ingredients.
That would be an example. Or an individual may be mixing chalk powder with a medicinal powder to dilute it and sell more. The focus is on the act of altering the drug in a harmful or deceptive way.
Okay, and following the pattern with food, is there a separate section for selling adulterated drugs?
There is. Section 278, sale of adulterated drugs. Just like with food, this section penalizes the act of knowingly selling or distributing drugs that are already known to be adulterated. It's designed to prevent patients from receiving ineffective or harmful medicines.
So the chemist or the dispensary has a responsibility too.
Yes. The law states, whoever, knowing any drug or medical preparation to have been adulterated, sells the same, or offers or exposes it for sale, or issues it from any dispensary for medicinal purposes as unadulterated, or causes it to be used for medicinal purposes by any person not knowing of the adulteration, shall be punished with imprisonment up to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or with both.
So again, distinct from the act of adulteration itself, this is about knowing it's adulterated and then putting it into circulation like a chemist knowingly selling antibiotics that they know are below strength.
Precisely. Section 277 targets the act of making the drug adulterated, while Section 278 targets selling or distributing a drug knowing it is adulterated. It's about accountability at different points in the supply chain.
Makes sense. Is there anything else on drugs specifically?
Yes, one more important one in this cluster, Section 279. Sale of drug as a different drug or preparation. This criminalizes a very specific type of deception, knowingly selling or dispensing one drug as if it were another.
Substitution.
Exactly. This is crucial for patient safety, ensuring they receive the correct medicine prescribed for them. The law is clear. Whoever knowingly sells or offers or exposes for sale or issues from a dispensary for medicinal purposes any drug or medical preparation as a different drug or medical preparation shall be punished with imprisonment up to 6 months, or with fine which may extend to 10,000 rupees, or with both.
So this covers situations like giving someone the wrong medication entirely, maybe because it looks similar, or passing off a generic as a more expensive branded drug, even if the wrong drug isn't technically adulterated itself.
Precisely. It's about the misrepresentation of the drug's identity. Imagine a pharmacist giving a generic drug when a branded one was prescribed, but charging the branded price and passing it off as such. Or, even worse, dispensing an entirely different medication with a similar name or appearance. It's about ensuring the identity of the drug is what it purports to be, safeguarding the integrity of medical treatment.
Wow, okay. This whole cluster of sections, from food safety to pharmaceuticals, really underpins the idea that what we consume needs to be safe and exactly what it claims to be. It's about fundamental trust.
It really is. Protection from both malicious actors and, importantly, negligent ones, too.
So what does this all mean for the bigger picture of public safety? Beyond just what we eat, drink, or take as medicine, how does the law handle other everyday dangers?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, the BNS 2023 also casts this very wide net over everyday dangers. It establishes really a fundamental duty of care for almost everything around us that could potentially cause harm.
A duty of care, like we have a responsibility not to endanger others.
Exactly. Think of it as defining our collective responsibility to prevent harm to others through our actions, or, again, our inactions. What's fascinating here is the consistent theme running through several sections. Criminalizing rash or negligent acts or knowing or negligent omissions across various dangerous contexts.
Rash or negligent, so
Okay.
reckless or careless.
Precisely. And the penalties are often similar, frequently landing around up to 6 months imprisonment or a fine up to 5,000 rupees. This similarity underscores the serious view the law takes on endangering life through carelessness, regardless of the specific context.
Okay, let's unpack this with some real-world scenarios. It sounds like a comprehensive guide to not being a hazard to others. You mentioned it covers things like poisons, fire, explosives, machinery, even buildings and animals.
Yes, let's explore how this universal duty plays out. Imagine you're dealing with something inherently dangerous. The law basically says you have a heightened duty to ensure it doesn't harm others.
Okay, like what?
Well, take poisonous substances, that's Section 280. If you carelessly leave strong household bleach or pesticides accessible to children, or perhaps a pharmacist negligently dispenses the wrong dose or fails to provide warnings.
That could fall under this.
It could. It's about exercising due care with poisons. The same principle extends to fire or combustible matter under Section 281.
Bonfires, gas cylinders.
Exactly. Leaving a bonfire unattended in a dry, windy area near houses, or storing highly inflammable materials like petrol without proper safety precautions. The law expects you to prevent accidental blazes through negligence.
Makes sense. What about more serious stuff like explosive?
For things like explosive substances covered in Section 282, the standard of care is naturally even higher.
Because the potential harm is greater.
Precisely. So, negligently storing dynamite in an unsecured location where someone could stumble upon it, or conducting blasting operations carelessly near a populated area without proper safety zones, these are clear violations. The inherent danger demands utmost caution.
Okay. Moving on to our industrial and urban environments. You mentioned machinery.
Yes, machinery comes under Section 283. This covers negligent conduct with respect to machinery. Think of a factory owner operating equipment without essential safety guards in place, leading to worker injury.
Or someone operating heavy construction equipment recklessly in a public area.
Exactly. A crane operator being rash near overhead power lines, perhaps. The law seeks to prevent accidents caused by negligent operation or maintenance.
What about buildings? You mentioned that too.
Right. Section 284 deals with negligent conduct with respect to pulling down or repairing buildings. This imposes a duty of care during demolition or repair work to prevent harm from, say, falling structures or debris.
So a contractor failing to put up proper supports or barricades during demolition and something falls and injures someone.
That's the kind of scenario it covers. Or a building owner neglecting a clearly dilapidated wall that poses a probable danger of collapse onto a public path. It's about being proactive in securing potentially dangerous building situations.
So again, it's not just about what you do, but also what you fail to do to secure a dangerous situation you're responsible for. A proactive approach to safety.
Exactly.
And what about our furry, or maybe not so furry friends, animals? I know that can be a big concern for public safety sometimes.
Absolutely. That's covered by Section 285, negligent conduct with respect to animal. This section places a clear duty on animal owners or those in charge of animals
To do what?
to manage their animals in a way that prevents probable danger to human life or grievous hurt. It's about protecting public safety from uncontrolled animals.
So if someone owns a dog known to be aggressive and lets it roam unleashed in a public park,
That's a prime example. Or someone keeping a wild animal, maybe a large reptile or something, in an insecure enclosure from which it could easily escape and harm someone. They could be held liable under this section.
is there a legal principle behind that?
Yes, it echoes the old common law principle sometimes called scienter action, where keepers of animals known to be dangerous are held responsible for the harm they cause.
Interesting. Okay, shifting gears slightly, but still on safety. What about our roads? Driving and riding.
A big one. Section 286 covers negligent driving or riding on a public way. This penalizes unsafe driving or riding practices that risk human life or safety. It's all about promoting road safety.
So speeding through a crowded street or reckless motorcycle weaving.
Exactly. And importantly, this applies even if no actual injury occurs, just the likelihood of danger being caused by the rash or negligent manner of driving or riding. The fine here can go up to 10,000 rupees, reflecting the high potential for harm on our roads.
10,000. Okay, higher than some of the others. And does this logic apply to water travel too?
It does. Parallel to road safety, we have Section 287, negligent navigation of vessel. This criminalizes unsafe navigation practices risking human life or safety on water.
Like a ferry captain speeding in a crowded harbor.
Yes, or someone operating a speedboat recklessly among swimmers or smaller boats. The principles are consistent with road safety, just adapted for the maritime environment.
And is there anything specific for commercial boats, like ferries carrying passengers?
Yes, there is. Section 288 targets conveying person by water for hire in unsafe or overloaded vessel. This is very specific. It penalizes unsafe commercial water transport of passengers, particularly if the vessel is unseaworthy or dangerously overloaded.
So it's focused on protecting fare-paying passengers.
Precisely. This would apply if a ferry owner knowingly allows dangerous overcrowding or uses a boat for hire that they know has significant structural defects, putting passengers' lives at risk. The for hire aspect is key here, highlighting a special duty of care for commercial operators carrying people.
Wow. This is a truly comprehensive look at public safety. It seems to cover almost everything imaginable, from a careless person leaving poison out to a reckless boat operator to ensuring buildings don't fall down on us.
It really highlights how the BNS tries to preempt danger before actual harm occurs, anticipating risks in so many facets of our daily lives.
It really does. So, okay, we've covered health and safety in quite some detail. What does this all mean for the perhaps more subjective areas of public decency and morality? How does the law navigate those complex waters?
Right, shifting gears a bit now, the BNS 2023 also delves into matters of public decency and morals. And this can often be a tricky balance, can it, between protecting public sensibilities and upholding individual freedoms.
You're absolutely right. It's a very delicate area, and it immediately raises an important question. How does the law even define what is obscene? Where does it draw the line between protected expression like art or literature and prohibited content?
Yeah, because one person's art might be another person's, well, obscenity.
Exactly. The balance is critical, especially when considering art, literature, scientific exploration, and the fundamental concept of freedom of speech.
So let's unpack Section 291 and 292, which deal with obscene materials. How does the BNS define obscenity here, and what are the boundaries? Okay, Section 291 is the main one, criminalizing the sale and distribution of obscene materials. But crucially, it also includes some very important exceptions that are often overlooked.
Let's start with what it prohibits.
The core idea is to penalize the creation, trafficking, distribution, exhibition, and promotion of materials that are deemed to have a tendency to deprave and corrupt those whose minds are open to such influences.
Deprave and corrupt.
Oh.
That sounds quite old-fashioned.
It's traditional legal language, yes, stemming from older tests like the Hicklin test, but the interpretation evolves. The law casts a very wide net over the actions involved: selling, hiring out, distributing, publicly exhibiting, circulating, making, producing, possessing, importing, exporting, or conveying any, listen to this list, obscene book, pamphlet, paper drawing, painting, representation, figure, or any other obscene object whatsoever.
Wow, that covers pretty much everything.
It does. It even covers profiting from such a business, advertising it, or even just attempting any of these acts.
That sounds incredibly broad and potentially restrictive. But you mentioned crucial exceptions. That sounds like where the nuance comes in.
Indeed, the important exceptions are vital for understanding how this section actually works in practice. This section explicitly does not apply to publications that are genuinely for the public good.
What qualifies as public good?
Things like publications in the interest of science, literature, art, learning, or other matters of general concern. It also specifically exempts items kept or used bona fide for religious purposes.
Okay.
And there's another specific exemption for representations found on ancient monuments, temples, or religious cars. Think temple carvings, for instance.
Ah, that makes sense. Protecting cultural heritage.
Exactly. This is a really fascinating insight into how the law tries to balance protecting public decency with fundamental freedoms. It's not aiming for outright censorship of everything sexually suggestive. It's about discerning the intent, the context, the audience, and the overall merit of the work.
So how do courts decide?
Well, courts, drawing on precedents moving beyond Hickland towards more modern Indian jurisprudence, often apply a kind of community standards test. They look at the work as a whole, consider contemporary societal standards, and assess any genuine artistic or literary merit it might possess. The law isn't static. It has to evolve with society's understanding.
That public good exception is really the key then. It shows the law isn't just about censoring, but about balancing artistic and scientific freedom with prevailing public standards. But things get stricter when minors are involved, right? That seems logical.
Absolutely. The law draws a much firmer line when it comes to protecting children. Section 292 provides significantly enhanced protection for minors.
How so?
Its core concept is to specifically criminalize providing obscene materials to persons under 18. The object is unequivocally to safeguard the psychological and moral development of children, who are legally considered more vulnerable to potential harm from such materials.
And the law reflects that vulnerability.
Yes, it states, whoever sells, lets to hire, distributes, exhibits, or circulates to any person under the age of 18 years any such obscene object as is referred to in subsection 1 of section 291, or offers or attempts so to do, shall be punished.
And the punishment is higher.
Significantly higher than for section 291. A first conviction under section 292 can lead to up to 3 years imprisonment and a fine up to 7,000 rupees. Subsequent convictions can mean up to 7 years imprisonment and a fine up to 15,000 rupees.
Wow, much steeper penalties.
Yes. And that public good exception from section 291, it's generally not applicable here in the same way. Materials that might be acceptable for adults could still be deemed inappropriate and harmful for minors due to their vulnerability.
A clear message. Protect the children. The law makes a very strong distinction there. Okay, so that covers obscene materials. What about obscene acts performed in public, not just books or pictures?
That's covered by Section 293. Its core concept is to penalize public displays of obscenity, whether through physical acts or spoken words, but only if they cause annoyance to others.
Annoyance is key again.
Yes. The object is to maintain public decency and order in our shared spaces. The law specifies. Whoever, to the annoyance of others, A, does any obscene act in any public place, or B, sings, recites, or utters any obscene song, ballad, or words in or near any public place, shall be punished with imprisonment up to 3 months, or with fine, or with both.
So it's not just about doing something someone might find obscene in public. It has to actually cause annoyance to others who are there. That's an important qualifier.
Indeed. To the annoyance of others is a crucial element. It's not enough to simply perform an act that could be considered obscene by some standard. It must actively cause annoyance or offense to others who are present or nearby.
Like indecent exposure in a park.
That would be a fairly clear example. Or someone singing extremely lewd songs loudly near a public street, causing genuine discomfort and annoyance to passersby. It's about the impact on the public's sense of decorum and peace in that shared space.
Okay. Now, shifting slightly again, but still maybe under the umbrella of public morals and state regulation, there's a section on lotteries. That seems a bit different from obscenity.
Yes, Section 294 deals with regulating gambling, specifically through lotteries, and it focuses on distinguishing between authorized and unauthorized ones.
So trying to control gambling.
Essentially, yes. The core concept is to prohibit unauthorized lotteries by penalizing 2 main things. First, keeping places specifically for the purpose of drawing such lotteries, and second, publishing or advertising the schemes of these unauthorized lotteries.
Yeah, the aim.
The object is primarily to prevent public cheating or fraud and to ensure state control over gambling activities, presumably for public welfare reasons.
So what are the 2 offenses it creates?
Right. The law actually presents 2 distinct offenses within this section. First, Whoever keeps any office or place for the purpose of drawing any lottery not being a state lottery or a lottery authorized by the state government shall be punished with imprisonment up to 6 months, or with fine, or with both.
Okay, running the place.
Exactly. And second, and whoever publishes any proposal to pay any sum on any event or contingency relative or applicable to the drawing of any ticket in any such lottery shall be punished with fine which may extend to 1,000 rupees.
So advertising it gets a fine. Running it can get jail time.
Correct. This would apply to someone setting up a shop specifically for running an unauthorized private lottery, or maybe distributing pamphlets advertising the prizes and ticket sales for such a lottery.
And the key is unauthorized.
Yes. The section clearly distinguishes these prohibited activities from state lotteries or lotteries specifically authorized by the state government. It acknowledges that some forms of lotteries are legally permissible and regulated, while others are deemed potentially harmful or exploitative and are therefore prohibited. It really highlights the state's regulatory role in managing activities that could impact public welfare.
Right. That makes sense. Okay, that's a comprehensive approach to defining and protecting our shared public spaces and collective values, touching on everything from physical safety to these more abstract notions of decency and morals. So, finally, what does this all mean for arguably one of the most sensitive areas covered in these chapters? Matters of religion. Okay, now we're moving into Chapter 16, which is titled Offenses Relating to Religion. This is, I think we can all agree, a particularly sensitive and crucial area for maintaining peace and harmony, especially in a diverse society like India.
Absolutely. It's incredibly important.
And the BNS 2023, it builds on existing legal principles here, doesn't it? Recognizing the profound importance of religious sentiment for many people.
Indeed. The sections in this chapter really emphasize protection against deliberate insult or desecration. The focus is on ensuring that religious sentiments, places of worship, and religious practices are respected, primarily to maintain public order and communal harmony.
Okay, so let's look at the suite of protections. Where do we start? Places of worship.
Yes, let's start there and also look at rights and even the dignity of human corpses, which is often tied to religious practice. Section 295 deals with destroying, damaging, or defiling place of worship or sacred object with intent to insult religion of any class.
Right, defiling a place of worship. That sounds serious.
It is. The section is fundamentally about protecting religious sentiments and physical places of worship from acts of sacrilege or desecration. Its core object is clearly to maintain public order and communal harmony by preventing such inflammatory acts.
What does the law actually say?
It states, whoever destroys, damages, or defiles any place of worship or any object held sacred by any class of persons with the intention of thereby insulting the religion of any class of persons, or with the knowledge that any class of persons is likely to consider such destruction, damage, or defilement as an insult to their religion, shall be punished with imprisonment, up to 2 years, or with fine, or with both.
Okay, the intent, or even just the knowledge that it would likely be seen as an insult. That seems really key here.
It is absolutely key.
It's not just about the act of damage itself, like accidentally knocking something over. It's about the motivation, or the foreseeable consequence behind it.
Precisely. An accidental chip in a temple statue wouldn't be covered. But deliberately vandalizing a mosque wall with hateful symbols, knowing it would cause outrage, that certainly seems intended to be covered.
And the law explicitly mentions intent or knowledge.
Yes, the law's wording includes what lawyers call a dual mens rea, or guilty mind. You need either the specific intention of thereby insulting the religion of any class of persons, or the knowledge that any class of persons is likely to consider such destruction, damage, or defilement as an insult to their religion.
That broadens it quite a bit.
It does. It makes culpability potentially wider, making it clear that even if proving direct intent is hard, demonstrating that the person knew the likely insulting effect could be enough. This protects not just the physical structures, but the deeply held feelings of a community.
Okay. And does this protection extend beyond just buildings or objects? What about burial places or funeral ceremonies?
Yes, absolutely. That same level of protection extends to places of burial and funeral ceremonies, which are, of course, equally sacred in many cultures and religions. That's covered in Section 296. Trespassing on burial places, etc.
Trespass, or more.
It covers more than just simple trespass. This section protects the sanctity of places of worship, but also burial grounds, sepulchres, and places set apart for funeral rites. And crucially, it also protects the dignity of human corpses. The aim is to prevent conduct that deeply offends religious sentiments or disrespects the dead.
Well, what kind of conduct are we talking about?
The law reads, Whoever, with the intention of wounding the feelings of any person, or of insulting the religion of any person, or with the knowledge that the feelings of any person are likely to be wounded, or that the religion of any person is likely to be insulted thereby. Again, that intent or knowledge element.
Yep.
Commits any trespass in any place of worship, or on any place of sepulchre, or any place set apart for the performance of funeral rites, or offers any indignity to any human corpse, or causes disturbance to any persons assembled for the performance of funeral ceremonies, shall be punished with imprisonment up to 1 year, or with fine, or with both.
So, vandalizing graves with intent to insult a religious group,
Oh,
or deliberately disrupting a funeral service.
exactly. Or offering some kind of indignity to a corpse. The focus is on acts done with the specific mens rea of wounding feelings or insulting religion, or knowing that's the likely outcome. It's about protecting that emotional and spiritual space around religious rituals and final resting places.
Ensuring solemnity and dignity. This raises another important question. What about active disturbances to religious gatherings while they're happening?
Good point. That's where Section 297 comes in. Its title is simply Disturbing a Religious Assembly.
Straightforward.
Yes, its core concept is to protect the freedom of religious assembly and worship from intentional disruptions. It's about ensuring the peaceful conduct of religious gatherings.
And what does it penalize?
The law states, whoever voluntarily causes disturbance to any assembly lawfully engaged in the performance of religious worship or religious ceremonies shall be punished with imprisonment up to 1 year, or with fine, or with both.
Voluntarily causes disturbance. What does voluntarily mean here? Intentional.
Yes, voluntarily generally implies intent, or at least knowledge, that the act will cause a disturbance. So if someone intentionally shouts disruptive slogans or starts playing loud, unrelated music right next to a religious congregation trying to pray,
Or heckles a priest during a service?
that could certainly qualify. They could be liable under this section. The key elements are the voluntary act causing disturbance and the fact that the assembly must be lawfully engaged, meaning it's a legitimate religious gathering taking place legally.
Okay, so we've had a detailed look at these initial sections concerning religion protecting places, rites, corpses, and assemblies. But I understand the BNS 2023 commentary provides further, perhaps more granular detail on a few related sections. And these are absolutely crucial for understanding this area, especially because there's been a very recent, very relevant Supreme Court ruling.
That's right. This is where it gets really interesting, because the Supreme Court has already had occasion to interpret some of these specific BNS sections concerning religious insult. And the guiding principle that emerges very strongly, as we'll see, is the paramount importance of deliberate intent and malice.
Malice being key.
Absolutely. And just before we dive into these sections again with the commentary, a quick note. You'll hear me mention again that some of these offenses are non-cognizable. Just to remind listeners, this generally means the police can't make an arrest just based on the accusation, without a court order or a formal complaint being processed first. It usually applies to less severe crimes, indicating a need for a more formal legal process to initiate action.
Okay, non-cognizable. Got it. So let's revisit which section first.
Let's revisit Section 298. Injuring or defiling place of worship. Now, structurally, this is very similar to Section 295 we just discussed, focusing on physical desecration of sacred sites.
Right, vandalism again.
Yes. Its core purpose is clearly to deter malicious vandalism of these places. But the crucial element where judicial interpretation becomes vital is that the mens rea, the guilty mind, must be a specific intent to insult religion or knowledge that the act would be so regarded.
So again, not accidental damage, not just being clumsy.
Definitely not. It has to be targeted. The punishment is up to 2 years imprisonment or a fine, and it's non-cognizable. When courts interpret this, they'll look back at precedents from the older corresponding IPC section, like the landmark Ramji Lal Modi case from 1957, which really stressed that a clear intention to outrage religious feelings is critical for conviction.
So an example might be
Smearing something considered deeply offensive, like cow dung, on a mosque wall with the specific intent to outrage Muslims, that would seem to fit the bill for Section 298.
Okay. And then there's Section 299. This one sounded like it covers non-physical acts, words, images, maybe online stuff. And you mentioned the big Supreme Court case related to it.
Yes, this is a crucial section, Section 299. Deliberate and malicious acts outraging religious feelings. Its core concept is to penalize deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage the religious feelings of any class of citizens by insulting its religion or religious beliefs.
So not physical damage, but insult through expression.
Exactly. It's designed to cover non-physical acts like speech, writing, signs, gestures, or, importantly today, electronic communications like social media posts. The punishment is steeper here, up to 3 years imprisonment or a fine, and it's also non-cognizable.
What are the key ingredients the prosecution would need to prove?
They'd need to show A, an act like speech, writing, an image that conveys an insult, B, crucially, a deliberate and malicious intention behind that act, and C, that the target of the insult is a religion or the religious beliefs of a class of citizens, not just an individual.
Deliberate and malicious intention. That sounds like a high bar.
It is. It requires a clear showing of malice, meaning that legitimate debate, criticism, or even satire about religion is generally not punishable unless it crosses that line into a calculated malicious intent to insult and outrage. And this is precisely where the Imran Pratap Gadi v. Gujarat 2025 Supreme Court case provides absolutely critical insight.
Tell us about that case.
In this landmark ruling, the Supreme Court explicitly quashed charges brought against the petitioner under this very section, BNS Section 299. They stated very clearly that mere criticism, or in this case, a poem that touched upon religious themes without demonstrating deliberate and malicious intent to insult, does not qualify as an offense under this section.
So just because someone dislikes it or is offended isn't enough.
Exactly. The court emphasized, and this is a direct quote regarding the principle, that every action which may be to the dislike of a class of people may not necessarily lead to outraging religious sentiments, specifically in the absence of that proven deliberate and malicious intent. This ruling effectively sets a very high bar for prosecution under Section 299.
Protecting freedom of expression while still deterring genuine malice.
That appears to be the balance the court struck. So, an illustrative scenario for Section 299 might be publishing a satirical cartoon that viciously mocks a core religious ritual with the clear aim of offending and outraging worshippers. Conversely, critical commentary or artistic expression about religion, even if controversial or offensive to some, likely wouldn't meet this high, deliberate, and malicious threshold without more evidence of intent.
That Supreme Court ruling is a huge aha moment. It truly clarifies that the law, as interpreted by the highest court, demands a very high standard of malicious intent when it comes to potentially outraging religious feelings of a group. It protects freedom of speech quite significantly in the process, ensuring that legitimate criticism isn't easily stifled just because it causes offense.
It absolutely does. It's a critical precedent for how Section 299 will be applied going forward. Now, let's quickly revisit Section 300, Disturbing Religious Assembly. As we noted, this is similar to Section 297, focusing on voluntary disturbance.
Protecting worship and ceremonies.
Exactly. Its core concept is to protect public worship and ceremonies from intentional interruptions. The disturbance can be caused by noise, physical obstruction, or really any act that interrupts a lawful religious gathering. Punishment is up to 1 year imprisonment or fine, non-cognizable.
And the key insight here.
The key legal insight is that it does not strictly require an intent to insult religious feelings, only that the disturbance itself was caused voluntarily, intentionally, or knowingly. However, naturally, if malicious intent to disrupt the religious practice could be shown, it would certainly strengthen a case.
Like shouting political slogans right next to an outdoor religious ritual, causing them to stop.
That seems like a plausible example of voluntary disturbance under Section 300. Next, Section 301, trespassing on burial places, etc. Again, very similar to Section 296, which we discussed, highlighting the sanctity of these final resting places and funeral rites.
Protecting burial grounds and funerals.
Correct. Its core concept is that protection. The basic ingredients are A, one of the prohibited acts, like trespass in a graveyard, offering indignity to a corpse or disrupting a funeral ceremony, coupled with B, the necessary mens rea, which is either the intent to wound feelings or insult religion, or knowledge of the likelihood that feelings would be wounded or religion insulted.
And how have courts looked at this historically?
Judicial interpretation, drawing from precedents under the old IPC Section 297, often suggests that mere hurt feelings might not be enough. Some element of malice or deliberate intent to wound or insult usually needs to be demonstrated. For instance, someone sneaking into a cremation ground and deliberately smearing a coffin with filth, specifically intending to insult the deceased's grieving family, that seems like a clear violation under Section 301.
Okay, now the last one in this group, Section 302. The title is Uttering Words, etc., with deliberate intent to wound religious feelings. This sounds very specific, perhaps targeting an individual rather than a group. How does it differ from Section 299 we just discussed?
You've hit the nail on the head. This is the most personal of these sections, and that's the key distinction. Section 302's core concept is to penalize uttering words or making gestures in the presence of a specific person with the deliberate intention of wounding the religious feelings of any person.
Any person singular versus class of citizens in 299.
Exactly. Section 299 targets the religious feelings of a class or group of people. Section 382 targets a specific individual's religious feelings. That's the critical difference.
And the punishment.
It's up to 1 year imprisonment or fine, and it's also non-cognizable. The basic ingredients are A, the accused utters words, makes sounds, makes gestures, or places an object in the view of a particular person, and B, this is done with the deliberate intention of wounding that specific person's religious feelings.
Deliberate intention again.
Yes, and again, the Imran Pratapgadi v. Gujarat 2025 Supreme Court case is highly relevant here too. The court, when discussing the principles that would apply to Section 302, explicitly reinforced that the words must be uttered or gestures made with deliberate intention of wounding the religious feelings.
So the same high bar applies.
It seems so. The court found that the petitioner's poem, which was addressed broadly to society, did not meet this stringent test of targeting an individual with deliberate intent. This reinforces that mere hurt sentiment or general offense caused to an individual is likely insufficient without proof of that clear, deliberate intent aimed squarely at wounding that person's religious feelings.
So what would be an example for Section 302?
Perhaps directly telling a devoutly practicing Christian neighbor face-to-face something like, "Your deeply held beliefs are just superstitious nonsense and false," with the clear and demonstrable purpose of offending and wounding their personal faith. That direct, targeted, deliberate intent seems to be what Section 302 requires.
Wow. What an incredibly detailed deep dive. We've really journeyed through a complex legal landscape today, haven't we? Public nuisance, health, safety, decency, morals, and religion, all under the umbrella of the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita 2023.
We certainly have.
We've seen how these laws aim to protect our collective well-being in so many different ways, often with some really surprising nuances and distinctions.
It's truly a testament to the comprehensive nature of this legislation, attempting to cover so much of social interaction, from the seemingly simple act of keeping a public pathway clear, to the complex responsibility of handling dangerous explosives safely, or even navigating the incredibly delicate area of protecting religious sentiments. The BNS 2023 systematically tries to address the very fabric of community life.
And those early judicial interpretations, especially that Imran Pratapgadi case you mentioned.
Yes, they are already setting crucial precedents, particularly concerning that balance between free speech and religious protections. The emphasis the Supreme Court placed on the high threshold of needing malicious intent for certain offenses, like Section 299 and 302, is significant.
It really shows the law isn't just a blunt instrument.
No, it suggests that while protection is afforded, freedom of expression is also being carefully guarded against potential overreach, requiring proof of genuine malice rather than just causing offense.
Exactly. What really stands out to me from our discussion is how often the law hinges on intent or knowledge. It's not just about the act itself, but the mind behind the act, the mens rea.
That's a consistent thread, isn't it? Negligence, knowledge, intent, malice.
These aren't just abstract legal concepts floating in the air. They're the practical rules that ideally enable us to live together safely, healthily, and with a degree of respect for one another. They demand a certain level of foresight and consideration for others in our daily conduct.
They really shape how we interact in our shared world.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, what does it all underscore?
I think it underscores the idea that a truly well-informed citizen understands not just their rights, but also their responsibilities to the collective. These laws, in many ways, are a reflection of society's stated values and its ongoing commitment to finding a way for diverse people to coexist harmoniously.
They establish a baseline for civic behavior.
You could say that, encouraging us, legally at least, to think about the broader impact of our actions or sometimes our inactions.
So what does this all mean for you, listening in?
Well, hopefully it means being a bit more aware of the invisible legal guardrails that are all around us, and understanding that our actions, whether they seem big or small, genuinely do have public consequences recognized by the law. It also means appreciating the careful judicial scrutiny being applied, especially where fundamental rights like freedom of speech intersect with public order and religious sensitivities.
It's a living, breathing legal system, constantly being interpreted and refined. It really is. Okay, time for your final provocative thought to chew on after we sign off. Consider this. In a world of increasing interconnectedness, global communication, and incredibly diverse viewpoints, how much should the law focus on protecting individual or group sensitivities versus ensuring a really robust marketplace of ideas, even when those ideas might cause significant discomfort or offense to some?
A classic dilemma.
Where is that delicate balance best struck for future generations? And how do these new BNS laws, particularly with their interpreted emphasis on malicious intent in sensitive areas, contribute to finding or perhaps complicating that evolving balance?
That is definitely a crucial question for critical thinking. Food for thought indeed.
We hope this deep dive has given you a fresh perspective and some valuable insights into these important chapters of the BNS 2023. Thank you so much for joining us on the Deep Dive.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and stay well informed.